Well, thanks for staying with us. We'll begin a series of countdown ahead of May 29 as we continue to assess the performance of the renewed hope mandate of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his mid-term anniversary on his first term as president. Three of his ministers have made headlines this morning, speaking about indicators as to how Nigeria's economy is on track. Joining us now is our next guest, who joins us virtually, Mr. Suleiman, to speak to the comments of the ministers and assess their indicators as which they judge are testaments to renewed hope mandate. Hello, good morning to you, Mr. Suleiman, and welcome to the program. Well, I can see you, but I'm yet to get an audio feedback. Kindly check that you're not muted at your own end.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Nigerians. Can you hear me now?
Loud and clear, sir. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Now, it's 9 days to the midterm of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's first term as president, and three of his ministers are making bold statements of how well on track the economy is as it regards some indicators. Now, some of the indicators mentioned are increased revenue, debt reduction. We hear that we've outrightly cleared some of the debts we incurred during COVID-19. And in terms of where we are in digital economy, over $191 million were recorded as investments in the fourth quarter of 2024. In your honest opinion, are these indicators reflective of where we are indeed as a people and our economy?
Yes, thank you very much. Frankly speaking, I think it's a reflection of what the ministers have said. I quite agree with what they have said. Things are difficult for all Nigerians. We know that there is inflation. We all know that. Everybody is feeling it. But what I always tell people when they ask me, if you say the economy is better, are you better off now than you were 2 years ago? But what I always tell them is that is a wrong question. The right question should be, is Nigeria better off now than it was 2 years ago? And the answer will be unambiguously yes. We have to look at where we were coming from. Nigeria was almost on its knees in terms of fiscal responsibility. The government could no longer meet its obligations. We were no longer able to service debt. We could not even borrow, we could not even get multilateral agencies that will borrow us money. We had to resort to ways and means from the CBN to finance budget deficit. But that is no longer happening. That is no longer happening now. The government has removed fuel subsidy. The government has also attempted to stabilize the foreign exchange market. All these have led to increased revenue to federal government and to the state. Now, states that will no longer pay salaries are now paying salaries. Many state governments are saying that. They say, look, we are doing project now. Project we could not. The national state governor said the project he has done in the last 2 years, he couldn't do them in the previous 4 years in his first term in office. Okay? This is a sign of improvement. This is to show that the bold reforms of the administration is yielding fruit. GDP has been growing in the last 4 quarters. There is foreign direct investment into the country, into every sector of the economy, especially agriculture, digital economy, and even the mineral sector. We're seeing investors. This is a sign of confidence in the economy. This is a sign that the international community is seeing something positive in the economy. And an economy that can pay its debt, an economy that can service its debt, is an economy that is growing. So we may not be where we want to be as a country and as a people.
Now, Mr. Suleiman, much like you've rightly cited these indicators and the challenge with the common man, understanding how it translates to a better standard of living is on the timeline that it would over time translate to a reduction in inflation. Yesterday, we heard that the CBN is contemplating in its next MPC meeting what to do with certain indicators as well in a bid to pull down inflation. More disturbingly is food inflation. MBS just released their statistics for the month of April about at the start of the week, where we're told that in states like Benue, food inflation is now double digits, 51.8% food inflation. It's been linked to the rising insecurity in the country as well. How would you assess the government's efforts at abating insecurity? It's been 22 months since President Bola Ahmed Tinubu declared a state of emergency on food security, but yet these issues continue to linger. How would you assess the government in that regard?
Yeah, honestly speaking, if anybody who knows how government operates, anybody who knows this country very well, as much as I think I do, you know that food inflation is more or less directly as a result of insecurity in the country. The insecurity in many parts of the country has disrupted the food supply chain, and it has led to increased costs of food items. We're not running away from that. And I think the military is doing it best. I'm not going to say that the military is not effective. The military is doing it best within the circumstances that it has found itself. See, people have said that, security agencies have said that many of these criminals, bandits and terrorists are not even Nigerians, that they come in through the borders, you know, and we have a border that is so wide and porous, okay? As you are fighting them here, they are moving to other places, you see? And what is the strength of our military? What is the strength of our police? This is why I think that the solution is to hasten the bill on state police. If we can quickly pass the state police bill, I think it's going to help us a lot. When states begin to police their borders, they begin to police their own territories, we're going to see a reduction in the incidence of insecurity. And that, of course, will lead to, will allow farmers to go back to the farm, and it will eventually lead to increased food supply.
Mr. Suleiman, as much as I agree with you that institutionalizing state police would also help in our efforts to curb these issues, whereas we have the promise that the establishment of the livestock ministry would also significantly reduce issues of herders and farmers crisis. In your assessment, would you say that the Ministry of Livestock is even beginning to deliver its mandate, or does it still need time to deliver on its mandates?
Yeah, I think they need time. It has not even taken off yet fully. So they really need time to deliver on this. You know, I think this administration just need more time. You know, they are taking on so many things at the same time. The Ministry of Livestock can be a game changer in this regard. Already we are seeing, I've read reports that about 12 states are already establishing, partnering with the federal government to establish ranches, so that we can have these herdsmen stationed in places, you know, live in ranches and not be moving around and causing damage to farmlands and all that.
But Mr. Suleiman, if we want to be honest, you have seen the situation even here in the FCT, where on major roads in major sections of the city, we still have herders in the city center. How much more states and rural communities?
Honestly, it's very embarrassing when you drive through Abuja Road and you see herdsmen crossing the road with their cattle. But I think these are not the traditional herdsmen that we know. The ones we find in the city are not the traditional herdsmen. Those cows belong to people in government here. They just hire them to herd the cattle for them, you know.
But shouldn't they be the first how would I call it, the first examples of doing what you preach? If we're talking about international best practices of ranches, shouldn't this government-owned cattle in the city be the first preachers of do what you preach?
I agree with you that the government needs to do more, and I'm surprised the FCT minister has not reacted to that, you know, because I expect the FCT minister, for instance, to do something about moving cattle around in the federal capital city. They have to do something in that area. I agree with you completely. The government has not really been firm in terms of stopping the damage that herders are doing to farm crops. But you see, on the other hand, if you also look at it from the other side, from the angle of the herdsmen themselves. Okay, these are Nigerians. The herdsmen that we know are Nigerians. And what I'm aware that all the presidential committees, probe panels that were set up by previous government to probe farmers, herdsmen crisis in Plateau, in Benue, and all that. They have always recommended ranching. All of them recommended ranching, you know, because ranching is the only solution to this thing. You know, cattle, they have their roots, but now those traditional roots have been taken over by farmland. You get the point. So that is why you see this crisis happening between farmers and herdsmen, because the land, the cattle need to graze, but the grazing land are no longer available. They have been taken up by farmlands. Okay, this is why grazing is very, very important. States should provide lands. You know, a lot of states can make money from giving land to cattle rearers. So I think we should. I remember, was it during Jonathan when the federal government was suggesting? No, it was during Mohamed Buhari, when the federal government was suggesting that states should provide land for ranching. A lot of states said no, you are not going to provide land to Fulani herdsmen, you know, because they will come and do this and do that. So that's why we are still having a problem today. If we had settled that during Jonathan, when the agri minister at that time, Adeshina, when he was saying that we should not be moving cattle, we should be moving beef. We should be moving beef, not cattle. You know, he also tried to establish ranching in states. But, you know, there was political opposition to it. The same thing during Mohamed Buhari. And this is the only solution. There's nothing we can do about it. We need cattle, we need the meat. So ranching, I think, is the only solution to this problem. There's no other way to solve the problem of clashes between herdsmen and farmers, which is causing a lot of this food insecurity that we're seeing, especially in Benue, in Nasarawa and Plateau State. And these are the food basket of the nation.
Now, most stakeholders in the agricultural sector have lent their voice, condemning, or would I say faulting, the declaration of a state of emergency on food security by the president almost at the start of his administration, saying that the ratings are low. We recall that there have been policy directions reducing tariffs or declaring zero tariffs on certain importation of food commodities into the country. There have been disbursements of fertilizer and grains to farmers. But when we look at the impact that these policies and interventions of the government have had on the actual state of our food security, do you see a better approach to it, or is it that the policies were largely not implemented the way they were envisioned?
See, I've always said these things. You know, the federal government has good intentions. You can have the best policies. Nigeria is a big country, my brother. You can have the best policies, but how do you implement it? What is the distance between Abuja and Sokoto, or Abuja and Maiduguri? The states are important stakeholders in agriculture in this country. The states have to take ownership. I've said this on one of your programs before. State government has to be more involved in the federal government's plan for food security. They are the ones that can do this. State government, local government, they should invest more in agriculture. You see, if they focus more on agriculture, we're not going to be having some of these problems. But if we are relying on the federal government to do everything, it's not possible. The federal government is not equipped to do that. They can only partner with the states. And you know the way states manage resources. That's the problem.
The management of resources is also a conversation that has been greeted with the skepticism of local government autonomy, because if we all agree, some of the agricultural activities do not take place in the city centers, And while state governors have been accused of stifling the local governments, the third tier of government in their autonomy, these issues might not be one that will go away in the next decades if local government autonomy is not seen to come to play. How do you advise that they proceed in that regard?
Well, the advice I can give the federal government or President Tinubu is that the federal government has leverage over states. The federal government is a big brother over states. If you want the states to do what is necessary, use the leverage.
Mr. Suleiman, let's be direct. When you say use the leverage, I would assume you're talking about allocations. We've seen the federal government even mandating direct accounts with the CBN as a conditionality for the payment of FAC, but yet those accounts have not been opened, but the federal government still goes ahead to pay into the joint accounts. So when you say use leverage, I'd like for us to be clear so our viewers understand you in clear terms.
Yes. I get what you are saying. Even though I didn't get your question very well, I think the network is an issue. But you see, what I'm saying is not just allocation. I'm not saying allocation. That's not what I'm even suggesting. What I'm suggesting is that the federal, many states, they have all sorts of problems. They have ecological problems. They have security challenges. They have all sorts of problems. The federal government can say, the president can say, look, if you want us to help you, if you want to get this fund, if you want to get that, this is what you should do. Okay? If you want us to give you this is what we want you to do. The same thing that the multilateral agencies do to us when they want to give us loans. Okay? When multilateral agencies want to give us loans, they say, look, let me see your plan. Let me see your plan. Okay? That is what I'm talking about. And they should have a mechanism to monitor the states so that they can do the right thing. Because if you don't monitor them, if you don't look at what they are doing, they are going to mess it up. They are really going to mess it up, honestly. The issue of local government autonomy is a very tough one. It's a very tough one. I think the federal government also realizes that. They try to get it through the back door, through the Supreme Court judgment. But apparently it is not, the state government have still found a way. I remember when the Supreme Court judgment was passed at that time, and a lot of Nigerians were jubilating. There were critics who said that, look, there's no reason to jubilate because the state governors will still hold the leverage over these people. You know the way we conduct, we do political recruitment in this country. You cannot become a local government chairman if the governor does not accept you. You understand? If the governor does not accept you, you cannot become a local government chairman. So even if the federal government pays directly into your account and the governor says, look, don't touch that money, okay? You will not touch it.
It's the sad reality. I must agree with you. But we have these conversations on this medium with the hope that we can change the status quo through advocacy. In advocating for the Nigeria which we envision, especially with the trajectory we're going on, yes, there's debt reduction, rise in revenue, but that it translates to better living conditions for the common man. I would just like your honest opinion in closing on how long it might take Nigeria to get to where we envision we should be.
Yeah, you see, we have to start from the grassroots. Forget the federal government. Start from the grassroots. Let us hold our grassroots leaders accountable. Let's hold the local government chairman accountable. Let's hold our governors accountable. Let the civil society be more active. Let the civil society in the rural areas, in the local government, in the states, demand accountability from their government, from their governors. Let all civil society organizations focus more on the states and less on federal government. And you are going to see a lot of improvement.
Well, I must thank you, Mr. Tajudeen Suleiman, the managing editor of the Whistle newspaper, for lending your voice to the conversation this morning. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
God bless you too.